All right, I'm going to record because there are some people that are working and that might not be joining us. And I think we'll just give it a minute, but I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Christine Malloy. I am the race director. Um, I own my husband and I own a company called Live Run Give, and we organize usually food themed events, taco 5Ks, donut 5Ks. But this is our kind of been a dream of ours to host the first triathlon out of Lake Hopatcong. And Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Capuzzo. I'm a coach and a triathlete, and I'll also be participating on race day. So I offered my advice to Christine. Uh, so hopefully tonight's webinar can answer some questions for you. Um, yeah, looking forward to jamming out with you guys.
It's going to be a really fun event. Paul, do you want to share?
Sure. Yes. Let me get that right now.
So I actually yesterday I had a meeting with the police department. So everything is really fresh and we have our final plans on what exactly we're going to be doing. So I would like just first of all to give you some information about parking. This is not in the participant guide because a lot of this is just developed over the past week as we have been gaining permissions to use certain lots. So you want to go over to the next page, Paul?
Sure.
All right, so this is an aerial view of Crescent Cove. If you can see, you see Crescent Road and Hudson Avenue, and you see the sand. So that is where the triathlon will be taking place. We're going to be there is parking on site, but it's a little bit limited. Some of that will be used for our EMS. Some of it will be used for our volunteers, police, but there will be parking available on that site. So in that little triangle of parking, you can see the aerial view. There's a total of 63 parking spaces. We're probably going to be using about 20 of them between EMS, bike transition, etc. So there will be parking there. It's really going to be first come, first served. But we recently got permission from a school that is right down the road from Crescent Road, by Twist on Thai Cafe, by the way, if you want a good Thai place to go eat, highly recommend. They make homemade coconut ice cream. It's really awesome. There is this school called Elite Prep Academy. It used to
Oh,
be the Hudson Maxim School, but they sold it to a private organization. I'm sorry, my dogs are playing in the background. So if you see them just chewing on each other, they insist on being out here. There's about 60 spaces at that school as well that can be used. They're in the lower parking lot. And it's actually some of it is on the course itself. So there is additional parking there. In addition to that, there's a parking lot, a small parking lot in the back of Twist on Thai. There is parking a little further down the street at the Beacon. There is additional parking at the Grotto, which is a pizzeria. But we do recommend that our spectators save the good spots for you guys. So we will have signs on these areas that say athlete parking only. We really want you guys to be able to take advantage, but if you can have somebody drop you off, that's really the best way. That's the way I've always done it. My husband drops me off with my bike, or I just ride over to the location. But just be mindful as you're doing that, that there is active traffic. Do not park at Johnny's Marina because they don't like people using their lot. So that's a little bit breakdown. I will update the participant guide this week to add all of those. But that will give you kind of an idea. So there should be sufficient parking for there. The other is the park and ride, but the park and ride has many ways that you can get to Crescent Cove Beach from there. And it's a huge, huge parking lot. So you can also park there as well. And that is literally behind the fire department, and very walkable as well. All right, you want to go to the next one? All right, Paul. All right. So I want to emphasize that the course is not especially busy in the AM. In fact, when I ride this course, this is my part of this course is my morning ride. I actually ride and have breakfast with my mom, and then I ride home. It's not really busy unless I spend too much time having too much coffee with my mom, and then it gets a little bit busy. So at 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, the roads are not really heavily trafficked, especially on this end of Lake Hopatcong. On the other end, going through Landing, Lake Hopatcong by the state park, that gets very busy. We're not going through that part, which makes it great. The swim water has been about 72 degrees. We just had a lot of rain this past Sunday. So it did bring the water temperature down a little bit. There's going to be a heavy police presence because we are charity beneficiaries of the Hopatcong PBA. We anticipate at minimum 10 to 15 officers on site. On the swim course, there will be a police boat on there with lifeguards. We have 6 lifeguards, between 5 and 6 lifeguards scheduled to be there on the day of. They are familiar with the beach. We'll have EMS there. We will have St. Clair's medical EMS as well. The roads will not be closed, but once again, they're not heavily traversed during this time, and the police presence is going to be significant because this is they are the beneficiaries. They are really pulling out all the stops. They will be following riders. They will be behind the last rider. So I'm not tremendously concerned about maybe the 6 or 7 cars that we might see during that time. Although the roadway will be active, they will be monitoring the way the traffic will. So that instead of having it be like a 2-way traffic, they'll have 1-way traffic on the run course. But that was an update from yesterday. And then in addition to that, we will be going into Jefferson Township, into Lake Hopatcong, but the Hopatcong police has received special permission to be able to go there, to be able to manage the course from there. So you should anticipate a great deal of support from the police. They really are very excited about this event and the potential it has for them from a fundraising perspective. All right, Paul. Next one. So why Lake Hopatcong? So I actually grew up in Hopatcong Borough. My parents still live in Hopatcong Borough, and I have been wanting to host a triathlon for quite a while because Lake Hopatcong is the largest freshwater lake in the state of New Jersey. And it's beautiful up here. People come to vacation here. I mean, look at my backyard. It's all trees. It's beautiful. There's birds and foxes and bears. It's amazing. But we don't have a triathlon. So I was driving to my mom's house every single day when my golden retriever was a puppy. She was babysitting, and I'm passing Crescent Cove Beach. And I'm like, you know what? This is the only place we could do one. We're friends with the Hopatcong PBA. We've hosted a few events for them. And I said to them, I have this idea. Would you guys be on board? And that's how this was all born. I live in Lake Hopatcong. I grew up in Hopatcong Borough. I love it out here. It's beautiful. You know, sometimes it's a little bit of a drive to get something besides pizza, but things are progressing out here. But this is my home and I love it. And I really love being able to support the Hopatcong Police Department. They are the coolest police department on the planet. So, all right, Paul, next one. All right, so I just want to remind you guys, if you raise $150 to the Hopatcong PBA, you get a Lake Hopatcong Tri hoodie. Just post it on Facebook, email people. It's a really great way to raise money for the Hopatcong PBA. And not only that, but it also helps support the programs that they support. They support everybody in town. They support the Little League. They support football. They support all the causes in Hopatcong. In addition to that, they do amazing work with the Special Olympics and with an organization that helps developmentally disabled people in the area called Smiles. All right, next one, Paul. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul now, who is going to go over some course specifics, race strategy, training, and nutrition tips for race week and race day, and answer a little bit of Q&A.
All right, thank you. Everybody can hear me okay? Good. So just a brief introduction. My name is Paul Capuzzo. I've been competing in athletics myself, you know, since high school, which is like kind of a long time ago, like 35 or 36 years ago. I've been coaching endurance athletes for over 25 years, and been doing triathlons myself for over 20 years. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions you might have and hopefully give you some good tips. So let's see. Um, so let's talk about the course. If you haven't already read the participant guide, you should always read the participant guide. So it's if you go on to the race website on Run Sign Up, there's a link to it there. Definitely read it. So the swim is a 400-meter swim. You're going to be going counterclockwise, which means you're going to keep all the buoys on your left. Okay. Um, the bike course and the run course, both of those maps are posted on Run Sign Up where the participant guide is posted. Um, like Christine was saying earlier, I went and drove both courses. You can use there's a map from a website called Plot a Route, and I was just looking at my phone and it was directing me, so I just drove the courses so that I could see them. So you can certainly do that. The bike is 12 and a half miles. You basically head out, do a little loop, which I'll tell you about, and then you come back the same way you went out. I'll talk more about it. It's twisty, it's hilly, there's not a lot of stretches on the course where you're just going to be hammering in a straight line. It's a lot of turning and a lot of gear shifting and a lot of adjusting. So it certainly is a challenging course, even though it's not that long. And then the run is similar. It's an out and back. It's got some short, punchy climbs. It's got some long, prolonged climbs. If you run it intelligently, you can run fast. If you run it unintelligently, you'll probably end up walking on the way back. But it's a really fun, challenging course. You can see here on the slides some of the signage. There'll be signs all over the course, and there'll also be a good police presence. So just follow the signs. And somebody's going to be leading, but it probably ain't going to be any of us. So just follow the person in front of you and hope they're going the right way. But there's plenty of signs out there. Um, like Christine said, it's early in the morning, so there isn't going to be a ton of traffic, but the roads are open. And you're going to be riding along pretty fast, in residential areas, and not everybody is going to know that you're in a race. So, never assume that people are going to get out of your way. Never assume that people are going to know that you're there. I personally am probably just going to leave. I usually, when I'm training, I'll have lights on my bike. I'll probably just leave them on my bike for the race and just have my lights blinking just to bring more, just more attention to myself and just to be safe. All right. So play heads up ball when you're out there for sure. So the swim, there's 3 waves. The first wave is for the go-getters, the people who've done it before, the people who are trying to be up at the pointy end of the race. The second wave is for, people who are more middle of the pack people. Maybe it's not their first race, but they're not, looking to win any awards or anything. And then the third and final wave is the wave for the first timers. So definitely put yourself in the right wave. Putting yourself in a wave that's too fast for you is not really a good recipe because it's you're going to kind of get jostled and you might get kind of swum over and stuff. So pick the wave that's right for you. And if you're not sure which wave is right for you, err on the slow side. Worst case scenario, you go a little bit out to the outside and swim around people. As far as swim strategy goes, just keep in mind that, the start of a triathlon is a very high heart rate scenario. You are pumped up. The gun goes off. You're running into the water. If the water is cold, which it kind of is, you could get a little bit of a shock response. So take your time. If you need to slow down for a second. If you need to float on your back for 10 seconds just to kind of gather yourself, do it. There's no shame in that. People do it all the time. People do it in Ironmans. Okay. So if you need to do something to settle yourself down, by all means, do it. Okay. So you're going to be trying to swim hopefully directly to the next buoy. So, there's a couple strategies. One strategy is I call it find some friendly feet. If you can find some friendly feet in front of you and sort of tuck behind them, hey, you're allowed to draft in the swim, right? And if you can find some feet to stay behind, you're going to be doing less work because the person in front of you is going to be pulling you along. But hopefully that person is going the right way. So every 5 strokes or so, you kind of pop up, and make sure you're headed towards that next buoy. Then you put your head back down. Try not to pop your head up too often, because remember, every time you pop your head up, your legs go down and you slow down, right? So try to, that could be something that you incorporate in your swims between now and race day, is kind of every once in a while, just kind of stick your head up, but try to do it smoothly so that you don't stop, and pop up and then some guy swims, into the back of you. So, developing the ability to sight up ahead is kind of a skill that you can practice. All right. Also keep in mind, if you need to take a break, you are allowed to grab onto, if there's a lifeguard out on a kayak, or if there's a boat out there, you can hold onto it as long as you don't make forward progress. Okay, it used to be, I mean, this isn't a USA Triathlon sanctioned race, but let's just talk as if it were. The rules used to be that if you touched a lifeboat, you're done. That's no longer the case. So if you get nervous and you need a breather, grab
Oh,
onto the boat, just stay there for a second until you're kind of settled down. And then when you feel ready to keep going, off you go. Was there a question? Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead on to the next slide, but at any point, if you want to hop in and ask a question, I can always go back to a slide or whatever. Just let me know.
you can also drop your questions in the chat.
Christine, can you keep an eye on that? Okay. Okay, so you run out of the water. This is where the hilarity ensues, right? So you're running out of the water. If you're wearing a wetsuit, which I recommend, as you're running out of the water, you're also peeling your wetsuit off. Okay. But this is my recommendation. Okay. Everybody has their own way. If you have a way that works for you, by all means, do what works for you. The way I do it is, as I'm running out of the water, I'm taking the top of my wetsuit off. And then when I get to the bike, I hang on to my bike and I stomp my legs out of the wetsuit. Okay. Please do not let race day be the first time that you try that wetsuit on, because T1 is a terrible time to discover that you can't get your legs out of the wetsuit because the openings are too small. Okay. So, just to jump ahead a few slides, the golden rule is nothing new on race day. Don't let the race day be the first time you try this wetsuit. Okay. Okay.
Drew has a question about what the importance of a wetsuit.
Yes. Well, there's a lot. When in doubt, even when the temperature is borderline, wear the wetsuit. It makes you more buoyant. It floats your legs up to the top. It gets you through the water faster. I realize that you might be thinking, hey, I'm only going to be in the water for 7 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever. What's the point? I hear you. And if you're a really, really good swimmer, maybe you don't wear the wetsuit. I don't know about you. I'm wearing the wetsuit. But long story short, the wetsuit makes you a much more efficient swimmer, mostly because it raises you up. It floats you up, So if you're not a great swimmer, I encourage you to wear the wetsuit. All right. So here's an important rule. Before you even take your bike off the rack, your helmet has to be on and fastened. That's a rule. Okay. At a big, like if you ever do a USAT sanctioned race, or if you ever do an Ironman branded race, you literally will get disqualified if you run out of transition without your helmet clipped. It's just for safety. So literally the first thing you do before you even take your bike off the rack is you have your helmet on and you click it. Okay. When you're running out of transition, make sure that your bike is on your right side, which means the drivetrain is away from you, right? You don't want to be running next to the greasy drivetrain with the chain ring, cutting into your leg. So there will, I'm assuming, be a volunteer who's telling you where to mount the bike. Do not mount the bike until you get to that person. I've seen some rather chaotic races where people are riding their bike out of the transition area. Like, okay, let's just take it easy, people. So you run your bike out of transition. And then when the person says, now you can mount, that's when you get on the bike. And I see that there are some questions, but I just want to make one more
That will
comment.
be, it will be clear and delineated. There will be a barrier.
Good.
There will be a barrier there and there will be a volunteer there. And on the in, it will say, on the in, it will say like dismount. We just actually ordered signs for that today.
Good. Yeah, that's super important. And the last thing, and then I'll address some of these, or should we wait till the end for the questions, maybe? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Um, so the last thing is, as you ride out of transition, it's slightly uphill. So make sure that your bike is on the small ring. You know what I mean? And the front ring be on the small ring. That way you can get rolling more easily. You don't want to be having to mash away in a big gear to try to get get your bike started. Okay. All right. Hope this helps. Okay. So let's talk about the bike. The bike course, like I said, it's turny, it's windy. There's not a lot of straightaways where you can just kind of, there's a lot of stuff going on this bike. Um, so uh, that would be a terrible time to discover that your brakes aren't that great, or that your bike is making a weird clicking noise, or you can't get it into the big ring, or you can't get it into the small ring. You got about 2.5 weeks between now and race day. Get your bike checked out.
But get it
Okay.
checked out now because if your bike needs a part, I used to work at Cyclecraft actually. If your bike needs a part, it might take them a few days to get that. They
Yep.
are dealing with, a lot there. Cyclecraft is a great store. If you can drop by there, they'll check over your bike for free and let you know what needs to be done. And of course, that part is on you, but get your bike checked out now. Um, you know, if it's a rainy day, pop into that bike shop. They're bored in there. It's a great time to do it. But make sure that your bike is checked over for your safety.
Yep. So that's a must. And I always say, I've been doing triathlons for over 20 years. I never mess with my own bike. Just leave it to the experts. If you know what you're doing as far as fixing your bike, that's fine. But if you don't, and I don't, let the pros handle it. Even the least expensive tune-up by a good shop like Cyclecraft will make your bike run much, much more smoothly. So that's definitely for peace of mind. I highly recommend getting your bike checked out. Okay. So when you ride out of transition, you're riding out Hudson Avenue to 607. That road, it's a little windy, it's a little narrow. It's only about a mile until you get out to Maximum Drive, which is 607. So, and the pavement is not so great. So that first road out to the main road, I would say don't go crazy like it's the Olympic time trial. I would say just kind of ride it and be a little careful. Then when you get out onto the main road, it's much, much wider, and then you can really start hammering. But just be careful on that first and that Hudson Avenue, you ride it both out and back in. So in both directions, just be a little careful. It's kind of windy, it's kind of turny, it's got some dips. Okay. So all throughout the bike course, there's lots of little hills. I don't think there's really any super long climbs, but it's rare that you're riding on flat road for very long. It's a lot of uppy downy. So this is why you want your gears to be working well, because you're going to be doing a lot of shifting. And you want to try to stay ahead with the shifting. You want to keep your cadence up. If you get to a hill and you wait to shift, suddenly you're mashing the pedals. That's no good, right? That means you waited too long to shift. So be proactive with the shifting. Try to keep your cadence up. It's hard to do on this course, but try to keep your butt in the saddle as much as possible. Okay, the more you pop up, and you're going to see people doing it. Every time you pop up out of the saddle and you mash up a hill, you might get up the hill a little quicker, but you're blasting your quads, right? And guess what? You got to run after this. You got to run off the bike, right? Pro cyclists get up and mash away all the time. Why? Because when they cross the finish line, they roll right into the buffet, right? You got a 5K. You got a 5K to run after that bike. So this is why being proactive with there might be some times where you're pedaling up a hill at 8 miles an hour, and your cadence is up, but that's better than standing up on the pedals and smashing away and pulverizing your quads. Okay, so it's a pretty challenging bike course. Ride some hilly stuff between now and then so that you're comfortable with shifting. Okay. There's two spots. I went and drove the course, and there were two spots that jumped out at me that I want to share with you. And Christine, if there are any others that come to mind, please feel free to share as well. The first one I noticed is, the course is basically you go out and then you do like kind of like a little lollipop at the top to make the U-turn, and then you come back. It's at about 5.7 miles. You're going to make a soft right to start like that lollipop. So you make a soft right onto Chincope, and then you make a left onto New Jersey. When you make that, what's that?
It's Schwartz.
Oh, Schwartz. So it's a soft right onto Chincope.
No Chincope. Chincope goes down to Raccoon Island.
Okay.
So you are going on Schwartz. There's like a real estate, like an old real estate, kind of looks a little abandoned, and a daycare. You bear to the right onto Schwartz and then make the left onto New Jersey. That's a slight modification on what the map is there. I took out a hill for you guys,
Okay.
So,
but that little left onto New Jersey, it's a 90-degree left, and that road is steep right away. So my suggestion is, when you make that first soft right onto Schwartz, immediately get into your easy gear, your easiest gear. Because when you make that left onto New Jersey, if you're in a hard gear, you're not going to get up that hill. And you're probably going to
I actually want to double check that because I thought I eliminated that. So let me just double check because I changed it.
Oh, okay.
So because I took that out, but I think they're going on New York now. So that eliminates that. So you don't have to get into a difficult gear. So let me just double check that.
Good.
It might have I might have updated the file afterwards. But yeah, so we eliminated that. Yeah, no, it's still on there. So they're going Schwartz, not to Chincope. And then instead they're making the right onto, it should be Rhode Island. But yeah, no, this is actually, it needs to be updated because it's not correct.
Okay.
So it's actually the first street instead. So it's Rhode Island, Illinois, New Jersey, but New Jersey is very hilly. So we decided to go Rhode Island and give you guys a break. So
yep, that's good. Okay. And then the other spot on the bike course that jumped out at me, when you're coming back and you're about to make the right onto Hudson to head back to transition with about a mile to go, that right sneaks up kind of quickly. So
there'll be a police car there.
Okay, good. Yeah. So heads up for that police car because you're kind of going on a downhill and you have to make like a hard right. Okay. And always better to be a little too slow around the turns than a little too fast. You don't need to be leaning your bike like you're a race car driver. So just be careful on the turns. Okay. Now, this bike course, it's not a very hands-free bike course. You're going to be shifting, you're going to be braking, you're going to be turning, but you can't forget to fuel. You cannot forget to fuel during this, but that's your only chance to get some calories in. Okay. So everybody has a preferred fuel that they like to have in their bottles. Water is not enough. You need calories. Okay. So on the bike, and you're only going to be on the bike for however long it's going to take you to ride 12.5 miles. It's probably not even an hour. During that hour, every time you think of it, you got to try to get some calories in. Okay.
And if you don't know what to get, you can go. I would recommend to go talk to the people at Cyclecraft. I'm biased because I used to work there, and they are a tremendous sponsor of this event. But you have people there who have been riding bikes for a very, very long time. Like literally, been riding bikes like forever, and that's all they do. It's all they think of. It's all they do on weekends. They work at a bike shop. They know all the fuels that are out there. It becomes really a lifestyle. So if you tell them, hey, I need some nutrition, but don't go buy new things the day before your try. You want to try it beforehand. You don't want to find out that this stuff that you put in your drink all of a sudden is giving you IBS symptoms on the bike on race day. It's a bad time to find that out. You need to find that out beforehand. What works with your body when you're exercising? Because when you're doing something this intense, your stomach doesn't work like it normally does. And
Always.
especially if you have a sensitive stomach, you really want to try these things out beforehand while you're running, while you're biking.
Amen. Okay. So you're going to ride into transition and get off your bike. Don't take that helmet off until your bike is back on the rack. Okay. So it's actually called the Risatello rule. There's this guy, Jimmy Risatello, who ironically is now the head of rules enforcement for Ironman. Back in the day, he was a pro triathlete and he was at a race where the prize was a bunch of cash and a new car, a new Mazda. The race was sponsored by Mazda, and he unclipped his helmet too early. He was winning by a mile, and he ended up getting disqualified because he broke the rule. So long story short, before you take your bike off the rack in T1, your helmet is on and clipped, and don't take your helmet off until your bike is back on that rack. Okay. Somebody was asking before we started about, what do I do with my number? You can go on Amazon and buy a cheap number belt. So, you don't have to be wearing that number the whole time, right? In the swim, obviously the number's going to be on your arm. It's going to be on your cap. On the bike, there's going to be a number on your helmet. There's going to be a sticker on your bike. So you don't actually have to wear that bib until the run portion. Okay. And you can go on Amazon and get a number belt for $10, and it's got little bungees, and you put them through the holes in the number. And that way in T2, you just grab that belt and you flip it around your waist and off you go. Okay. There are ways to save yourself time in transition. Can you get some of those stretchy laces? Can you get a number belt? You know what I mean? Sometime between now and race day, when you're practicing transitions, hint, hint, you should run through all these steps and say, hey, I just wasted 30 seconds hopping around on one foot trying to get my shoe on. Maybe there's a better way to do this, So this is all stuff you want to play around with before race day. The run is only 3 miles, but that's not insignificant. So grab a gel, grab some chews, grab some calories to have with you. If you need it, you have it. And if you don't need it, then you use it some other time. I've done races where I ran with a bag of chews in my hand for 5 miles, and I got to the finish line and realized, I never even had any of these, but at least I had them if I needed them. You're going to be working hard. You're going to be burning calories. It's quite likely that at some point you're going to go, man, I could use a little jolt right now, a little jolt of sugar or something. So have fuel with you.
We will have a water stop at mile 1.5, and I will likely add some bananas to there. Bananas are my favorite, my fuel of choice.
Good stuff. And if
they work with a lot of people too.
Somebody's about to pass you, you throw the peel on the floor and they slip, and then you can win the race.
Yes.
But actually, not to be a party pooper, but abandonment is a 5-minute penalty in USA Triathlon sanctioned races. Even if you didn't mean to litter, if you litter and they catch you, they give you a 5-minute penalty. So don't litter. Okay. So let's head out on the run, right? The first 0.8 of a mile is up. Okay. And in fact, just to get to that uphill, you have to run up that short, punchy climb to get to the river Styx there. But my point is, this run course does not start out easy. But guess what? If the first 0.8 of a mile on the way out is up, guess what happens on the last 0.8 of the mile of the race? You get to roll on home. So my suggestion for this run is just to take it slow, right? Take the first mile slow. Listen, work smarter, not harder, right? Why work your hardest on the hilly mile? Wait till the flat stuff and the down stuff, then work, So just be patient. You're going to be coming out of transition. Your friends are going to be there cheering for you. Your heart rate's going to be 750 beats a minute. Just take your time. You're probably going faster than you realize anyway. Okay, so don't rush into it. All right. The middle mile is uppy and downy and uppy and downy. So just, it would be impossible to run this race course with your pace being even. But what you can keep even is your effort, right? Keep your effort even, which means your first mile might be your slowest mile. but your third mile might be your fastest mile, right? So be patient, run the course as it comes to you, right? There's no way you're going to run even splits on this. It's too variable, right? So dial it back a little bit on the ups, work on the flats, let the downhills help you on the downs. Okay, when you get to that aid station, water over the head to cool you off, right? If there's calories there, grab a bite of banana, grab, whatever if there's a strange person offering you pizza, no, don't take that. But, that's a good time for calories because you might have another 15 and 20 minutes of running to do, So the run is 3.1 miles long, but I would say if you can make it to about 2.3, you're good because the last 8/10 of a mile, you roll down that long hill and down the steep thing that you have to run up at the beginning, and then boom, you're done. Right? So be a little patient. My other tips for, when you've been redlining for over an hour now, what are the things that you're going to say to yourself to keep your mindset in a positive place? Right? Saying this sucks, I hate this hill, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. That's not gonna get you to the finish with a smile on your face, right? Thinking positive, thinking I can do this, thinking I'm having fun, thanking the volunteers, saying hi to people, high-fiving a kid. That's all stuff that makes you, yeah, smiling, man. Smiling helps, right? Smiling helps in a big way. It sounds kind of corny, but keeping yourself in a positive mindset, when you really just want to kind of stop and sit down, trust me, it helps. Okay. Those are all on the news, right? Things you want to do during the race.
I also wanted to
Okay.
mention, as challenging, because it is the Lake Hopatcong Triathlon Challenge, I added that word in there special. No, Coco. Sorry, my dog. It also is incredibly scenic and incredibly beautiful. You can expect to see the birds swooping, cardinals, blue jays, sometimes a beaver, sometimes deer. It's we're in the country out here. And the neat thing on the run course is you pass by the home of Hudson Maxim. He developed the dynamite, and he used to do it in his lab right there on the lake, and it would explode. And it's kind of a beautiful. You get to see the lake and all of the beautiful lake houses and all of just the interesting little tidbits. I ride around here, so it's just beautiful. So take it all in, and thank your higher power that you have the ability to be there, and just be able to experience this, because a lot of people will never ever do this, and you guys are. So it's going to be amazing.
Okay. I agree that when you get to the top of that run course, it's the view is really, it's worth busting your hump to get up that hill because it's really, really pretty. So I wanted to share some training tips with you for stuff that you can do between now and race day. So the fact of the matter is the race is 2.5 weeks away. You really can't add a ton of fitness in 2.5 weeks. Okay. So don't go crazy being like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm gonna go, do all this training. Like that's fine. But remember, successful training has two ingredients. There's the work and there's the recovery. And if you dump a bunch of training on yourself between now and 2.5 weeks from now, your body's not going to be able to absorb all that work anyway. You're just going to show up tired. Okay. Um, the biggest mistake I see, with, beginners, and it's a mistake that I made myself. You'd be amazed at how much of your training should be easy. There should be hard stuff, but the majority of the work should be easy. If you're having trouble sleeping, I can share reams and reams of research. This is how the best in the world do it, I assure you. Okay, so what you don't want to do between now and race day is hammer your workout every single day between now and then. That's not what you want to do. Okay. So here's a couple of sample workouts. So a good swim workout, and you're going to see there's some commonalities between the swim, the bike, and the run workout that I've proposed. So there's an easy warm-up period. There's some swimming that's a little slower than race pace, right? What is race pace? That depends. It depends on what you feel like race effort is going to be, you know. So there's some longer intervals that are a little slower than your goal race effort. There's some maybe hundreds, which is probably take most people between 2 and 15 or something like that. You know, some intervals that are right on the race effort. And then what you really want to do is not a lot, but you want to do some shorter, fast intervals that are faster than race intensity. Okay. And then just do a little bit of a cool down. And those are the ingredients of a really good swim workout. It's not going to the pool and hammering and hammering and hammering, right? Um, a good bike workout is going to sound quite similar. Go out and ride for a little while until you're warmed up, right? Do a couple of short, hard blasts just to kind of wake your body up. And then some riding at what feels like race intensity to you. How long should those intervals be? Well, with 2.5 weeks to go before the race, they really shouldn't be that long. You know, again, you don't want to pile a ton of training onto your plate right now because, you're racing soon, right? And then the same idea for the run workout, give yourself 10 or 15 minutes of warm up, a couple of strides or drills or dynamic stretches or something, just to kind of get the heart rate up a little bit. And then again, just some short chunks of race intensity work, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, right? You can do it on the road. Some people like to go to the track, but this run course is not very track-like. It's very uppy downy, right? So go do it on the roads is my suggestion, right? So the idea of these workouts is, you're giving yourself some aerobic fitness, but you're also doing little bits of work that are just enough to, stimulate a little bit of fitness without dumping a ton of fatigue on you. Like, sure, you could go to the track and run, 200s or something. That's fine. But then you're gonna have to take the next 3 days off because you overcooked it. You know what I mean? So little bits of race, intensity in all three disciplines is, I think, your best strategy between now and race day. All right. What else do we got? Okay. Let's talk a little bit of nutrition. So during the week leading up to the race, you want to hydrate diligently. Fortunately, it's been cooling off, but maybe it's going to get hot again. So water is good, but something that has electrolytes in it is better. Something like Noon. You can get it on Amazon. I'm sure CycleCraft has lots of products like this and more. Noon is just like a little electrolyte tablet. It's not carbs. There's no sugar in it, but it's just got some extra electrolytes to, help your function. Electrolytes are important, needless to say. The week of the race, time to dial the booze back a little bit. And there's a million reasons why you don't want to be drinking a lot of booze, generally speaking, but especially during race week. So the race is Saturday morning, which means Thursday night it's pasta time. You want to dial back the fiber because the fiber can create some digestive issues. Friday morning is a good day for pancakes, right? Get some carbs happening. The rest of Friday, you can eat kind of the way you would normally eat. You don't need to keep piling on the night before. If you have a huge dinner the night before the race, you're not really going to get all that glycogen out of it anyway. So really 2 nights before is like the big dinner night. And then the day before is a big breakfast, and then just kind of eat normally the rest of the day. Watch out for fiber, watch out for dairy. You don't want to eat things that are going to upset your stomach. And then, the day before, really be diligent with your hydration. If you're a salty sweater, there are products out there that will have extra salt. There's a product called Element or LMNT. It's just a little packet. It tastes great, but it has a lot of salt. And that's not for everybody, right? Everybody's salt needs are different. But if you're the kind of person, you get done with your workout and you're covered with salt, maybe you need a little extra salt. And the day before a race would be a good time. You're not going to give yourself hypertension if you add extra salt for one day, but it could help you. All right. So those are some race week nutrition tips, right? So this is what I recommend to all the athletes that I coach. Try to get up at least 2 hours before the race, and it's all carbs, okay? And it's all stuff that you can tolerate, right? You don't, even something like oatmeal, that's a lot of fiber. It's probably fine, but you really want just really easy to process carbs, like a plain bagel, waffle, pancakes, right? Have your coffee by all means, but don't dump a bunch of cream in there, you know. On the way to the race and in transition, you can be sipping on some fuel, some race fuel. A couple of really good brands, which are easy to get. There's a brand called Scratch, which there's a million flavors. It tastes great. There's a brand called Never Second, which I use, which is, like has a lot of carbs. This is not stuff that you would want to drink on a daily basis because it's a ton of sugar. But when you're working out, when you're racing, guess what you need? Sugar, right? Um, if you're a gel person, when you're on the beach before the race, about 15 minutes before the race starts, hit that gel, maybe a sip of water if you have access. Remember to fuel on the bike because your tummy can tolerate a lot more when you're riding than when you're running, right? Your fueling is going to slow way down once you start running because you're going to be working really hard, right? And the blood doesn't want to have to go to your tummy, right? The blood wants to go elsewhere. And like I said before, on the run, maybe a gel or some chews, right? Depending on how you're feeling and what you're used to. It's, you're going to be working hard all day, and it's not easy for your body to deal with digestion when you're working that hard. And if it's hot on race day, that makes it even harder. So you don't need to go crazy with the fueling. I mean, how long are you going to be out there? Hour and a half, something like that. You don't need to go, wild with the fueling, but you do need to fuel. Okay. Once you are across the finish line, it's time for carbs, and the way to recover best is with protein, right? That's when you don't want to do protein before or during because your body doesn't use that efficiently for energy, and it's not as easy to digest as carbs. So just carbs, 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 right? You when on race morning and during the race, you get to eat all the things that you would not want to eat otherwise. You do lots of carbs, lots of sugar, lots of salt if you need it, right? All the things that your doctor would tell you not to eat normally. But race day, have at it, right? And then after the race, you do need to keep hydrating. I know we're probably going to all have a beer. That's fine, but you do need to keep hydrating because you worked hard, you know? Okay. I think I only have one more slide. Yes, let me just show you one more slide and then we'll take some questions. So as far as do's and don'ts go, right? Really the biggest don't is, and Christine mentioned it earlier, nothing new on race day. You never want to be trying something new for the first time on race day. Okay, if you go to Cyclecraft and buy some gels and some drink mix, use it this weekend, right? Use it during your workouts between now and then. That way, yes, this stuff works for me. No, this stuff doesn't work for me. Okay, so train with the fuel that you plan on using on race day. Have you done a workout where you finish the bike and immediately go for a run, right? That don't let race day be the first time you try to run fast after having just hammered on your bike for 40 minutes because your body's gonna be like, what the heck, man? Are you comfortable in your wetsuit? If you're borrowing your buddy's wetsuit, borrow it tomorrow and wear it soon. You can even go to the pool at the gym if you have to with your wetsuit on, just to make sure that this isn't choking you or anything like that, right? Have you done some workouts where you come out of the water and you sprint to your stuff and you have all your stuff laid out, and have you practiced your transitions, right? Because that's a super high heart rate scenario. Everybody's cheering. There's people running in and out. You're trying to get all your stuff, right? That's not something that you want to be trying for the first time on race day. Okay. As Christine mentioned, if I were you, if you're in the area, I would drive the courses just to familiarize yourself so you can see some of these hills that I'm talking about. You can see kind of how turny it is. Have you worn all the stuff that you're going to race in? I mean, everything, right? Have you worn whatever shorts you're going to wear, whatever socks you're going to wear, right? Nothing new on race day. Okay. And the other thing is a good exercise would be, lay out a towel and put all your stuff on the towel and be like, okay, I'm running in from the swim. I'm going to need this, this, and this, and have it all laid out for you. Okay. The transition area on race morning is everybody does it their own way. And if you see some guy who's like, oh, he did it that way, so I figured I'd try it that way. Well, what if his ways is stupid and you don't find that out until you try and you're like, oh, this is actually a stupid way to do it. Right. So you want to have it all set up the way that works for you. And even if the guy next to you says, hey, you really ought to do this, I got it, I'm good. Right. And that way, if you screw it up, at least it's your fault and not some other schmuck's fault. Okay. So that's it. It's just you don't want to have anything for the first time on race day. That's a classic, rookie mistakes. You want to avoid those. Okay. All right. So before we go into questions, I just thank you for listening to me blather for the last however long it was. There's my email. There's my phone number. I will be there. I'm going to do the race too, so I'll be there. But please do not hesitate to email me, call me, text me. I'm happy. I love talking about triathlon stuff. I love talking about training. I love talking about racing. You can also check out Hopatcong Multisport Coaching is my team. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Please reach out. Don't be shy. I love talking about triathlon stuff. All right. Is that the last slide, I believe? Yes. Okay. So, Christine, before we start taking questions, anything you want to hop in on? Turn your mic on, Christine.
There was one thing I wanted to mention about glasses. We are going to have a glasses table. So I can't see. And if I'm running out of the water barefoot, I don't have my glasses on. And I have goggles that like have my prescription in them because when you're open water swimming, it makes it a little bit easier to sight and they're not expensive. They're pretty cheap on Amazon. I just ordered a few pairs and it's like close to my prescription, but not exactly, but at least I can see like when I sight up. So I'm gonna have a glasses table for all of my friends that are wearing glasses. So that means you won't be blind running to your bike. It's very fun to try to find your bike when you can't see anything. And it's like, where do you put them? So glasses people, I got you. Cause like I'm like, why is there no love for us? And the other thing, I wanted to mention somebody had asked about the open water swim. There actually was some damage done to the beach. We had a very intense storm here in Lake Hopatcong. We had like tornado type. It felt like it was going to be a tornado. It was crazy. There was some damage done to the beach, which they're working really swiftly on. And they were like all of the sand was pushed out into the lake. So they're having to kind of redo that. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have the opportunity to do it. I have considered, I actually live in a lake community where I can have, people come and do swim, but it would kind of be an at your own risk situation here in Lake Winona, which is a very nice, beautiful little lake. And we could always do that in the evening, but there would be no lifeguard. It would be kind of at your own, but I would just invite those. I'd probably have to limit it so I don't get in trouble with my association, but we could just have a fun friends swim. But once again, it would be at your own risk. I wouldn't be able to have a lifeguard or anything there, but we could just enjoy the open water and you can just hop in the lake and just kind of just be in the open water. It's important to be able to practice.
Yep, for sure. On that note, on race morning, I personally am a fan of getting in the water for the start of the race. So give yourself time. I like to leave like I know everything is really condensed at this race site, but like I like to get down to the water with like at least 20 minutes to spare. That way I have time to get my wetsuit on, get in the water, get the initial shock of the cold water out of the way, and then just kind of feel more comfortable that way. So I would hop in the water race morning as well and do a little swimming if you can. So I'm just going to scroll through the questions. Christine answered a lot of these.
I updated the bike course. Also, I wanted to mention about the algae blooms, just for your comfort. And just to know that this site is tested daily by the Department of Environmental Protection. They're also going to be giving us water temps daily because they're out there anyways, but it's being tested daily for the algae blooms. They did have a small They were over the algae bloom about a month ago, but it's all gone now. So that, but if anything should change, which I don't anticipate with the weather the way it's been, especially because it's gotten significantly cooler, if anything should change, then we would have to work with the Department of Environmental Protection to make any modifications to it. So in addition to that, the water is tested, frequently. It has circulation and things like that. So it's a really beautiful little beach. If you live in Hopatcong, you can actually get a membership there. But if you don't live in Hopatcong, unfortunately, you can just visit it for triathlon. But Wendy is amazing. She is the owner of it, and she does a fantastic job. I'm gonna see if I can get something together to do. I mean, I like literally the lake that I'm talking about is down the street from my house. I walk my dogs there. They're not allowed to swim there anymore. So I'll see if I can get something together because open water swim it's important and it's fun. And it's very different than being in lanes.
Yep.
But I really want to thank you guys, for supporting the Hopatcong police. As I said, they're amazing guys. They're so much fun. We laugh so much when we're at our meetings with them. Wetsuit brands that don't break the bank. Paul.
Okay, so yes, before I get to that, let me just a couple of things real quick. So somebody asked earlier, how important is a wetsuit? I think it's important. I would wear one if I were you. Um, there was one other question about cadence, bike cadence. That's a great question. Me personally, I'm gonna try to stay in the mid 80s. Um, you if you don't have a cadence sensor, here's the point. You never want to be in a gear that's so hard that you're really slowly mashing your pedals. That's no bueno, right? So you want to keep whatever gear you have to keep in to keep your cadence up, right, is better, right? So I would err on the high. I'm going to be doing a lot of proactive shifting on this course to keep my cadence up because I never want to be caught in a big gear where I'm kind of smooshing away. That's you're going to slow down and you're going to blow out your quads. So wetsuit brands. Travis, perfect. Xterra, I find, is like the perfect beginner wetsuit. It's not the world's greatest wetsuit, but you can get a really good one for probably less than $200. Seems like they're always having sales. I would definitely check out Xterra.
Just be mindful on shipping. I just actually ordered one for my husband. His wetsuit was not in great shape and he wanted to get out and start swimming again. And it did take a long time. I ordered it on August 6th and it just arrived today, which I was really surprised about. So just be mindful on shipping times, because time is obviously, you don't want to have something that you can't, not gonna be able to use. So just be mindful. I'm not sure what happened and why it took so long, but it might have just been I should have just picked a paid shipping option.
The other thing I would recommend is unless you know that you're going to be doing a super cold swim somewhere, I would go sleeveless. I would recommend sleeveless wetsuit. Um, I I mean, I'm going to be wearing a full wetsuit just because I have a really comfortable one. But if you're not really used to wetsuits, I would go sleeveless because it's much less restriction. It's much less constriction. And at the end of the day, it's not going to make a huge difference anyway. Whereas if you have a full wetsuit, even though technically it's faster, it can lead to more just discomfort and, so I would go sleeveless. Um, Somebody asked in the chat, oh, can I share my suggested training for the next 2+ weeks? Yes, but here's my stock answer to a question like that. It depends, right? Have you been training for 0 hours a week? Have you been training for 5 hours a week? Have you been, you know what I mean? Like the first thing I want to know is like, what have you been doing and not doing? So my email is right there on the screen. Please email me. I'm happy to give you kind of like a framework of what I would suggest, but it all depends on what have you been doing, you know? Um, I think that's it for the questions in the chat. Anybody else want to pop in with any questions? Will there be beer at the finish? That was,
You can unfortunately
I was joking. I was joking.
I won't have a beer, but you can have your beer at the Beacon there, or they're giving 10% off with your bib. And they have
Awesome.
some nice beers on tap and some, if you're not into beer, they have some nice mixed drinks.
Somebody asked, can you have a beer in transition? I do not recommend. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, no beer in transition.
The
Um,
participant,
the
yeah, proceed.
participant guide is on it's on Run Sign Up. It's a PDF. It does have um some updates that I'm going to be making to it, including the parking and things that I shared, and then the update to the file. I did drop the new GPS link in the chat. That it just takes out this brutal hill that you would have hated me for. And I would just like to preface, it is hilly. This is where I ride and run every single day. Not every day. I don't ride every day, but this is where I ride. This is where I ride and run. This is my hood. And this is how like people up here in the lake, we just like if you want to go out ride, you got to ride the hills. So it makes you a better cyclist. It's good for you, and you can put extra bacon on that burger when you're done. And you can have that extra beer because you will have absolutely earned it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, so Christine, do you want to take that question from Juan?
Yeah,
It's the last one.
the beach will be open to participants. Just just be mindful to be able to get yourself enough time so that you can do that. So we will be opening up for the 7:30 start, so we can open up for warm-up swims probably around 6:50. I can update that within the participant guide. And in addition to that, I did want to mention, now that we're talking about the beach, there are real bathroom facilities on site and there are showers. So it's first come, first serve, but there are showers. So if you need soap, if you want to go out with your family when you're done, and go grab something to eat, you can do it non-smelly, which is really exciting. So
All right. Like I said, if people who are watching this recorded, or if anybody here, if you think of a question that you want to ask, after we finish, please, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love talking about stuff like this, so happy to, answer your questions and help you have a good day on September 7th. Is that right? September 7th?
Saturday,
That's it.
September 7th.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul, for volunteering your time and your knowledge. We really, really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. And anything, feel free to email Paul. If you have questions about the race, feel free to email me. And then if, I can always connect you with Paul if need. You just hit the send the race a message on the link. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you guys have a fabulous time and enjoy the rest of your training.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.